So this story today has me raging, okay? Because people reacting to it have the dumbest opinions humanly imaginable. And Asmongold, intellectual genius, is gonna say the dumbest shit that any human can possibly utter right now. And we are gonna tell him why he's wrong, okay?
Absolute rock bottom moment for the legacy media.
This is a gamer. It's a popular gamer. So if you wonder why all the kids love Hitler now, it's because of Asmongold.
Yeah. According to Face the Nation host Margaret Brennan, the Holocaust happened because of genocidal Nazi regime, which defined totalitarian for the 20th century, allowed too much free speech. This is a crazy exchange. This media...
Okay, so look at this statement right there. Absolute rock bottom moment for legacy media. According to Face the Nation host, the Holocaust happened because of the genocidal Nazi regime, which defined totalitarianism for the 20th century, allowed too much free speech. She did not say at all that Nazi Germany allowed too much free speech. Let's continue.
And for the 20th century, allowed too much free speech.
If someone's this dumb, or if they're this slimy, that they will lie to you about this, you cannot trust them.
A crazy exchange. Does media really think the Holocaust was caused by free speech? Fuck it, we'll take a risk. We'll watch this. There's a lot of people talking about it. I'm actually really curious what this is.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups.
Okay, let's see what Asmongold says first. Before I go off on it, let's see what he says first. Okay, she says free speech weaponized in a way that eventually led to a genocide. Okay.
The context of that was
and there's currently a far-right party that many people see as a successor to the Nazi party, the AfD in Germany, that Elon Musk and JD Vance support.
Groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship
I have to disagree with
was
you.
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
Well, he was
I've got to listen to this again.
standing.
Okay, first listen. He needs another listen. I respect that. The comments are calling her the R word, saying that she's stupid, saying she's dumb, saying that she has an earpiece that's telling her information to say, okay, or whatever other conspiracies.
In a country where free speech was
Where's the long...
Someone saying, okay, there obviously was not free speech in Nazi Germany. We know that. No one's saying there was free speech in Nazi Germany. The lack of literacy to interpret words in this country is insane. She is not saying there was free speech in Nazi Germany. She's not saying the free speech in Nazi Germany led to the Holocaust. She's not saying that. With any type of reasoning ability, any kind of reasoning ability, you know she's not saying that.
Longer form version of this. There's gotta be like, this is crazy. Okay, this is a 3-minute one.
And so I think if anyone's angry about his word, they don't have to agree with him, but to be angry about it, I think actually makes his point. I thought it was actually a pretty historic speech, whether you agree with him or not. I think the valid points he's making to Europe is we are concerned that the true values that we share, the values that bind us together with Europe, are things like free speech and democracy and our shared history in winning 2 world wars and defeating Soviet communism and the like. These are the values that we shared in common. And in that Cold War, we fought against things like censorship and oppression and so forth. And when you see backsliding and you raise that, that's a very valid concern. We can't tell them how to run their countries. He simply expressed in a speech his view of it, which a lot of people frankly share. And I thought he said a lot of things in that speech that needed to be said. And honestly, I don't know why.
JD Vance said, the real enemy is not China or Russia. The real enemy is the enemy within. And he started saying a bunch of lies about how free speech is gone in Europe. Meanwhile, the AfD, the new neo-Nazi party, was just on national television for Germany the day before. The day before. Russia and China, oh, don't be afraid of them. Be afraid of the enemy within.
Why anybody would be upset about it. People are allowed, you know,
There's a huge opposition party in the beginning. Yeah.
You don't have to agree with someone's speech. I happen to agree with a lot of what he said, but you don't have to agree with someone's speech to at least appreciate the fact they have a right to say it, and that you should listen to it and see whether those criticisms are valid. I assure you, The United States has come under withering criticism on many occasions from many leaders in Europe, and we don't go around throwing temper tantrums about it.
Well, he was standing in a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide.
Now remember the confidence and the condescension that you can have having zero facts about the world. You know, what he's about to say is going to be the dumbest, most degenerate, zero IQ comment in human history. Okay, he's going to say the dumbest shit possible. All right, the dumbest, most, I want to say really bad words to describe what he's about to say. But just remember, if you believe that she's saying Nazi Germany had free speech, you do not have literacy. Your brain is not functional. Your brain is being poisoned by social media. You are believing any narrative that right-wing Twitter tells you to believe. You're believing any narrative right-wing media tells you to believe. The condescension, the big pause.
I was really hoping, so like the reason why I didn't want to watch this short clip is I was thinking to myself, there's no way, right? There's no way. This has got to be out of context. This is, but how is it? It's like that kick streamer clip earlier, where it's like, no, not only is it out of context, but it's even worse.
In a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide, and he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship
I have to disagree with
was
you.
specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not.
This is a really famous gamer who does political content now. He is a big MAGA supporter, the biggest political streamer on Twitch.
Not an accurate reflection of history. I also think it's wrong. Again,
really
I go
dumb.
back to the point of his speech. Okay, the point of his speech was basically that there is an erosion in free speech and intolerance for opposing points of view within Europe, and that
The White House right now is banning press that doesn't say Gulf of America. Although Gulf of Mexico is still the name, we identify as Gulf of America here in America because we're silly. The AP reports globally Gulf of Mexico because that's what it's called globally. And the White House is barring them from the Oval Office. They want loyalist media in the Oval Office. They're banning federal workers from even saying the word diversity or DEI, or you get fired. They're doing thought policing in our government right now. Nothing about that. Nothing about that at all. Do you think these guys understand anything about Europe and their democracies?
that's of concern because that is eroding. That's not an erosion of your military capabilities. That's not an erosion of your economic standing. That's an erosion of the actual values that bind us together in this transatlantic union that everybody talks about.
I'm waiting for him to say something really dumb, though. I'm waiting for the actual, like, super, super dumb comment. But he's really just going, yeah, sure, yeah, sure, yeah, sure. I'm waiting for the dumb comment.
Little Marco's come a long way ever since 2016, hasn't he?
Little Marco. Is he going to say an actual opinion?
He really has.
I'm waiting to respond to an opinion that he says. But does he just, like, nod along to the MAGA videos and not give an opinion the entire time? I'm waiting for the actual, like, the
allies and friends and forums, countries to engage with us,
where
not
is it?
big collection.
His speech because he's advocating for.
Have the right.
So they're criticizing JD's speech because he's advocating for free speech in Europe. That's wow.
And the
Wow.
Oh my God, bro. Okay, so
to speak their minds in forums such as these.
Mr. Secretary, I'm told that we are out of time.
I fucking bet. Yeah. I bet. Yeah, bro. Time's up. Oh my God.
we're cooked.
Jesus.
This is the American political
Obviously, you're not
opinion.
criticizing for that.
This is the
Sure
American
seems
political
like
opinion
that.
right now.
It
This
sure
is the
seems
America,
like that's what she said.
the America
I mean, if
consensus
that's not
right
what
now.
it was, that then it could be something else. But it sure
Remember, millions of kids watching this. Millions of kids between the ages of 15 and 25.
seems like that's what she said. Absolutely.
He has not given one opinion. He just laughed.
The U.S. if Kamala had won. I don't know, man. And she's running. Yeah, bro, we're out of time. That's insane.
And so I think if anyone's angry about his word, they don't have to agree.
Give an opinion. I want to hear the dumb opinion really quick.
Free speech. Well, the reason why media criticizes free speech is because free speech puts the media at risk. Because free speech is a counterbalance to the media. The media wants themselves to be the arbiters of what's true and what's not, and it's a power grab, really. It's not even ideological.
Okay, so the actual topic at hand here. The reason she said that free speech was weaponized in Germany to lead to the Holocaust is because in Nazi Germany, there was no free speech. But in the Weimar Republic, there were conditions set through propaganda from the Nazi Party that convinced the Germany people, that convinced the people of Germany to be okay with the atrocities, to be okay with dehumanizing people, to be okay with the social fragmentation, to be okay with the chaos. Before Nazi Germany, Nazis abused free speech to lie to people, to manipulate on a grand scale. She's talking about, in Germany, they are sensitive about letting Nazis have microphones because Nazis can be very convincing when they lie to people, and they convince people to hate each other and be super scared and paranoid to the point where they destroy entire societies. That's why in Germany, they're more sensitive to allowing people just like hailing Hitler in public or saying just like direct Nazi ideologies in public. They're sensitive to it because they saw before in Germany's history when people are able to just share hateful lies completely without any type of pushback and just have the freedom of reach, not just the freedom of speech, but the freedom of reach. When they're able to do that, these dangerous groups can convince people to have things like the Holocaust, to have things like single party rule. The single party rule of the Nazis came as a result of the Nazis weaponizing free speech. That's the entire point of what she said. But these dumbasses don't have any capability to interpret this information, so they nod along. Yeah, media bad. Yeah, dude, I cannot believe she just said that. I cannot believe she said that. She thinks freedom of speech led to the Holocaust. Completely unrestricted free speech absolutism is 100% a cause for violence. It's not free speech to direct people to do violence, to lie to people in a way that motivates them to do violence. You cannot incite violence. That's not part of free speech. Inciting violence, hate crimes, that is not part of that. It's a different conversation. When J.D. Vance goes in there to criticize European democracy, when their democracies are much more free than America's, and their people are much happier than America's, their people live 8 years longer on average with life expectancy in Europe than Americans do. They have better systems than America does. They have less money in their political systems than Americans do. When J.D. Vance goes into Europe, which have more, they have better functioning democratic models, he goes there in the midst of Russia and Ukraine being the biggest topic globally, okay? He says in that speech at the security conference, Russia and China are not the big threats. The real threats are the enemy within because they're trying to get people to turn against each other, to get the governments to fall apart. Because J.D. Vance, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, all these big, rich, billionaire buttholes, they want governments to fall apart so they can pick up the pieces and gain power. They want divide and conquer. That's the reason of what she said. That's the point behind what she just said there. And all the people who seriously believe she is saying that Nazi Germany had free speech, get your brain checked.
His speech was very unprofessional and left a bad taste. A lot of people lost faith in America after that, and that's a fact. Well, I don't know if I don't know how many other people I speak for, but I'm speaking for myself at least, is that if you lose faith in America because America is advocating for freedom of speech and freedom of expression, then I didn't want your faith to begin with.
They're not really advocating for freedom of speech. They're bringing up random culture war topics. So, for example, one topic J.D. Vance brought up was about someone getting... the UK police were talking about arresting someone for internet posts. The reason they were going to arrest someone for internet posts is because they incited a race riot. They used the social media to lie about a crime. They said it was an illegal immigrant that killed people. Okay, they said there was an illegal immigrant that killed people. It was actually a citizen of the UK. This online post caused a literal race riot. J.D. Vance brings that up as preventing free speech because they wanted to arrest someone that caused the race riot with lies on the internet. He also brought up an idea that people were getting arrested for praying in their own homes because they were too close to an abortion clinic. And there's a buffer zone from an abortion clinic. There's a radius you cannot be within because they don't want protesters shaming people going to get abortions. And J.D. Vance claimed that law applies if your house is within that radius, that you cannot pray in your own home in private, that you can go to jail. That was completely false. So Vance went to lie his ass off. He went to go show Europe, we are not your friend anymore. Russia and China are not the enemy. He said, you are the enemy. There's a reason Trump attacks Greenland, Mexico, Canada, the EU, but he never attacks Russia, China, North Korea, Saudi Arabia, Israel. There's a reason he never attacks the authoritarian countries globally. He only attacks the free countries globally because they support the authoritarian countries. They support Hungary. J.D. Vance said during the campaign he wants America to be more like Hungary, which is moving towards a dictatorship. That is their entire model. When they say free speech, it's a dog whistle. It's not true. They don't really want free speech. They're cracking down on free speech right now in America. He's doing that to divide Europe. He wants the crazy radical groups to win in the European elections so those governments can fall apart. So authoritarianism becomes more likely globally. That's the entire goal of J.D. Vance's speech.